What is up, guys? We are back with another video, and today, as you can see, we're taking a look at a case, and this is Fractal Design's brand new Torrent case. And the whole idea with this case was Fractal wanted to create something with the highest possible airflow out of the box, with also being able to support the highest end hardware, and I think they've done it with this case. So let's go ahead and take a look. As we take a first look at the case, this is a mid-tower, but it's actually one of the largest mid-towers that you're gonna find out there. I'll put the actual dimensions of the case sort of like right here, and this case weighs in at just under 24 pounds. Now, we received the white version of the case, and the white version of the case has an all-white exterior and a clear side panel. Fractal is also going to offer the case in black and gray versions with different side panel options. There's also going to be a black RGB version that swaps out all of the fans inside for RGB fans, and the opposite side panel, which is plain on this case, will actually be a tempered glass panel as well. Starting at the front of the case, we have one of the more defining elements, which is the front bezel. The front grille has a Y-shaped vent design that really stands out and actually reminds me of old server cases. The design also makes it quite easy for air to flow into the case. The vent fins are silver, which adds a nice contrast to the white color of the case. Towards the bottom, you will find a Fractal Design logo. If we pull down from the front of the top bezel, it's easily going to pop off. Once removed, we can see the two pre-installed Fractal Design Dynamic GP18 PWM fans. These fans feature an optimized fan geometry for balanced airflow and static pressure, and also have notch blade edges to eliminate fan hum. Fractal was nice enough to send over two of their new Prisma AL18 PWM fans. I decided to replace the two fans in the front with these. It's actually nice that Fractal is selling these because it's really hard to find 180mm RGB fans out there. The front of the case will also support three 120 or 140mm fans and radiators up to 420mm using the included fan brackets. On the inside of the front bezel, you'll find a removable filter. There's also a filter that pulls out from the bottom of the case, although you do have to remove the front bezel to access it. The filters use a nylon mesh, which offers 2 times the airflow of plastic filters. Moving up to the top of the case, we find our control panel, which includes a large power button, HD audio jacks, 2 USB 3.0 ports, a USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-C port, and a small reset button. The rest of the top of the case is plain white with no ventilation. Like the front bezel, the top is also made of plastic. By removing 2 screws on the rear of the case, you can easily remove the top section of the case. Once removed, it reveals something very interesting, a top-mounted power supply mount. We haven't seen one of these on a case in a very long time. Having a top-mounted power supply allows for the entire base of the case to be used for air intake, which we'll see in just a little bit. We can also see built-in water cooling fill ports on the top section of the case. As we move to the side of the case, we have a tempered glass side panel, and again, on the white version, this is completely clear. It's gonna basically show off everything inside your case. There is a toolless top latching mechanism which allows you to easily remove the panel with a single hand, and it's probably one of my favorite features of this case. The opposite side panel is all white, but it has the same locking mechanism, so it makes it easy to really remove this panel and get into the back part of the case. The rear of the case has a very basic design with, of course, the power supply mount at the top and the motherboard mount below. The rest of the rear of the case is ventilated, and there is room for an optional 120 or 140mm cooling fan. Also, you'll see that there are 4 Velcro straps along the rear exterior for managing your power cables. And this is great because it really allows you to keep everything like your cable mess behind your case just nice and neat and organized. As we take a look inside the main side of the case, we have a very simple design, which is basically meant to just show off all of your hardware. As far as motherboard support, we have support for eATX, ATX, micro ATX, ITX, SSI EEB, and SSI CEB motherboards. For those wondering about clearance, we have support for graphics cards as long as 423 millimeters and CPU coolers up to 188 millimeters tall. The motherboard tray has 4 cable routing holes surrounding it. All of these have rubber inserts. There's also 3 more below the motherboard, and these are great for, your front panel headers and your other connections. At the bottom of the case, you'll find 3 pre-installed Fractal Design Dynamic X2 GP14 PWM fans. The cooling bracket that they're pre-installed on is fully removable from the case, and this bracket supports 3 120 or 140 millimeter fans, or 2 180 millimeter fans, or radiators up to 420 millimeters. As we look towards the top of the case, we do have this pretty cool power supply mount right here. And the cool thing about it is that it does feature an ARGB strip. This ARGB strip uses a standard 3-pin addressable header, so you can easily connect it to your motherboard and control it with your motherboard's software. Removing the opposite side panel, we can see how the rest of the case is laid out. And for those wondering about space for, hiding cables, there's about 1.3 inches between the back of the motherboard tray and the rear of the case. The first thing that caught my attention when I removed the opposite side panel was the Nexus 9P Slim PWM fan hub. This is located towards the bottom of the case and allows you to connect up to 9 PWM fans and control them with a single 4-pin header to your motherboard. Now, after this case launched, there were reports about the fan hub. A lot of people were saying it was short-circuiting and having issues. Fractal is aware of this, and they've actually completely halted sales of the case altogether. So you really can't buy this right now. Maybe by the time you're watching this video, you might be able to buy this case, but they halted all sales. And then for everybody who actually purchased a Torrent, they're going to be sending you a new fan hub. So there is a form on their website where you can fill out where you purchased this and all that, and they'll be sending you a new fan hub out. For all of the cases that were already in the sales channel in warehouses, they're going to be completely retooling all of those cases with the new fan hub, so you don't have to worry. And if you already purchased a Torrent and you have it set up like this, they want you to unplug the fan hub and just rely on your motherboard headers for the time being. They have instructions for that on their website. I do want to say this is the correct way to do things when you have a problem with hardware, whether it's in your case or, we've seen power supplies recently and all that kind of stuff. One, halting sales so people don't continue to have this problem, or they don't continue to use something that could potentially hurt their hardware. Also, replacing that hardware at no cost. So they're replacing the fan hubs at no cost to you, and they're fixing all of the cases that are currently in the sales channel. So I would say hats off to Fractal for doing all of that. All of your storage is located on the back side of the case. So you have 2 removable 3.5-inch hard drive trays, and these trays only support 3.5-inch drives. And then towards the front of the case, you'll find 4 removable 2.5-inch storage trays. As far as cable routing goes, you do have a cable channel as well as 5 larger Velcro straps on the backside of the motherboard tray, and then 1 in the power supply compartment itself. There's also a total of 16 additional tie-down points. It has been quite a while since we reviewed a case, and we've completely updated all of the hardware in our case system setup. So here's a list of that hardware for our testing. As we come to the end here, I want to say that I was actually really surprised when Fractal reached out talking about this case and actually seeing it, because we already had the Meshify series, which was made to be high airflow, but I really think the Torrent is really its own thing, its own monster, and it's really good to see Fractal be like, we want the best airflow, been able to support the most high-end components in a case, and I really think they've done it here with the Torrent. Now, of course, let's talk about airflow. 5 included fans out of the box. You have the 3 140s on the bottom, and then you have the 2 180s in the front. These are in a proper installation for high airflow, for proper high airflow. So you have air coming in from the bottom and then coming in from the front, and then it's reliant on your power supply to really get all of that air out of there. Of course, you have room for the either a 120 or 140 here on the back as well to even help with that airflow. And then you have the included fan hub, which not only supports all of those fans, but it can support up to 9 fans. And as we talked about, there were some issues with that fan hub, which Fractal is working on. And again, you should see a new fan hub, and they've done everything correct. We already talked about it earlier in the video with that whole process. On top of that, again, the whole idea with this case was being able to support the most high-end hardware. So as far as graphics card support, again, up to 423 millimeters, we were able to actually install the Zotac RTX 3090 Amp Extreme Hollow, which is the longest graphics card that I've ever reviewed. We were able to get it in this case, no problem whatsoever. Also, CPU coolers up to 180 millimeters. Most tower coolers, even the biggest ones, are like 165 millimeters. Power supplies, I believe, up to 223 millimeters long. And this is a big case, so that's gonna make installation extremely easy. We really didn't run into any issues with installation whatsoever. Everything went in, no problem. The instructions were easy to follow. You have a ton of space inside. And we do come to that issue with space. So if you have a very basic system like we do here, smaller graphics card, ATX system, smaller air cooler, we have a lot of dead space in this case. And this happens with a lot of Fractal cases, is that if you're not doing a higher end build or some water cooling, you have some dead space, especially towards the front there. Now, we have seen in the past Fractal releases compact or C versions of their cases. Not sure if one's gonna come out for this case, but again, that is one thing to think about. If you have a kind of basic system, it is gonna look a little weird in there with just some of that dead space. Other things I did like about this case was the storage options. 6 hard drives out of the box, 4 SSDs, as well as 2 normal hard drives, all on the back side of the motherboard. I did find it a little harder to route cables here, because typically on most cases we have our power supply at the bottom, and then we have the section over here where our hard drives go, and I can like hide cables down in there. You have to be a little more meticulous with your cable routing. There is enough room on the back side of the motherboard tray to route your cables, but again, you just have to be a little more meticulous. But I think overall this case is awesome. Now, as far as pricing goes, the normal versions of the case, which is this one, the white, black, the gray, they're all gonna be $189.99. And then the RGB version, which again has all RGB fans, so the 2 fans in the front and the 3 in the bottom are all RGB, and the opposite side panel is tempered glass. That's gonna be $299, or $229, not $299, $229. So I think the pricing is pretty good. The only thing that's a little weird for me is like this top section right here is all plastic. It just feels weird for a Fractal case, and the front is all plastic. So for, again, everything else is metal. All of the hard drive mounts, everything is metal, except for those 2 parts. That's a little weird to see as well. But as I said, I really like this case. If you're building a high-end system, and you want high airflow, this is going to be a case to get. It has some of the best airflow that we've seen, keeps everything inside nice and cool. So if you have any questions about this case, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below, and we will have links below where you can go ahead and pick this case up, as well as to our full written review. We'll see you guys in the next video.